Let's take a look at solving quadratic equations by completing the square. Well, there's several ways this is done, and I'm looking at this example here, and we don't have to do it quite the way they do it. And the way which we've been doing this in class is to actually complete the square of this thing completely. And what they're doing is they're starting to move elements of it onto the other side. But we don't have to do it that way. We can solve this completely on its own, and then in the final step, make it equal to 0 and solve for x. So let's take a look first of all at just completing the square of this figure here, which is the 5x squared plus 8x plus 1. So let's do that first. So here we go. So I've got 5x squared plus 8x plus 1. I'm not going to concern myself with equal 0. I'm just going to complete the square first. All right. So the first thing I need is I must have x to the power of, the a value of x must be a 1 here. So this has to be a 1x. So I'm just going to divide everything by 5. So to do that, I can either have 5 outside the brackets, or I can just have everything over 5. So we can't have x over 5 though. So I'm just going to have 5 outside the brackets, an x squared plus an 8 over 5x plus 1 over 5. So that's the same thing as I've got here, except in kind of a factorized version. So now let's take this, and I'm going to spread this out a little bit because I need to insert the squared value in between. So I've got 5, I've got my x squared plus 8 on 5x. I'm going to put the plus 1/5 over here, and inside I'm going to add the b value divided by 2 squared. So b value is 8/5. I'm going to divide it by 2, which is the same as multiplying the bottom by 2. So now that is now divided by 2, and I'm going to square it. Of course, if I add it, I've also got to subtract it, so therefore it kind of balances itself out. So it's 8 divided by 5, but I'm going to multiply that by 2, that halves it, and I'm going to square it. Okay, so the whole thing, of course, is still divided by 5. So this whole thing is still multiplied by 5. So let's take a look at how this now plays out. So I've now got equals 5. I know that my bit inside here, I'm going to have x. This is going to be this bit here, which is 8 on 10. And I'm just going to write 4/5 there, yeah? Plus 4/5, because 8/10 is 4/5, just to make life a little bit easier. And then I can take that, by the way, is the whole of this bit here. This bit here has now, is this form here, that one bracket in there is the whole of that section there. Now I'm going to add this bit on the end here, so I'm going to go plus, I've got a 1/5, and I've got 8 on 10, or 4/5, so I'll write it out full, minus 4/5, and of course that is squared. Let's rewrite that now, so I'm going to have 5, 2 brackets, x plus 4/5 all squared, plus, now I've got a fifth, and I've got that, so I've got 1/5, and I'll write the 1/5 here, why not, minus, so this is going to be 16/25. Well, I can make this into 25ths, probably best to do it that way, I imagine. So let's make this 5/25, because I can have 5, and I've got 1/16, and I can kind of add them together pretty easily. So let's just go ahead and do that. So that's going to be 5x plus 4/5 all squared. Now I've got 5 minus 16/25, which is going to be 11 plus, minus, gosh, what am I doing? Minus 11/25. There it is. Now, I need to make this into something that I can reasonably use. So I'm going to now get rid of the 5 on the front here. In other words, I'm going to multiply this bit by 5, and I'm going to multiply this bit by 5. So in other words, I'm going to expand the brackets, multiplying all of that by 5. Let's do that now. That's going to be 5x plus 4/5 all squared. I'm going to multiply all of this by 5, which is going to be minus 5 times 11 on, And I'm going to make it really easy by going 5 times 5, because that's 25th. So I'm now going to cross out those, and I've got 11/5. So that all of that is equal to 5x plus 4/5. And by the way, you'll notice that I'm really dragging this out step by step. And the reason is so people can see, how do I get from one step to the next? So this is minus 11/5. And the idea is take as many steps as you like. So now we have completed the square. That is the completed square form of the original. There it is. So there's the original, and that is exactly the same as saying this, but we have a completed square bit. Now, if we wanted to solve that, which would be the next step, then all we would do is say, right, we've got this figure here, and I'm going to rewrite this out because I'm going to now make it equal to 0. That's 4/5 squared minus 11/5 equals 0. So I'm going to add 11/5 to both sides. 11/5, there it is. So now I've got 5x plus 4/5 all squared is equal to, and I'm going to space this out just a little bit, I've got 11/5. Now I'm going to divide this side by 5 and divide this side by 5. If I divide that by 5, the 5s disappear. I divide this by 5, I got now 25 on the bottom. Now, let's also, while we're here, unsquare this. Okay, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to go x plus 4/5. It's all squared, but I'm going to take the square root of that is equal to, and I'm going to take the square root of 11/25. So I'm going to put a plus and a minus in front of there. Now, this is where I can get rid of the bracket now, because the square root of a square leaves me with an x, and 4/5 is equal to, now I can put plus or minus, but I've got root 11, but I can find the square root of 25, which is just 5. Now in a moment I'm going to subtract 4/5 from both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to make it in this little section here. Here we go. Oops, it's all gone all dark on me. 1 second. I hate the way it does that. Let's just make that a bit lighter. Hang on. Oops, here we go. Oops. That's better. Here we go. All right. I think it's when I stick the pen right in front of the camera. Okay, so I've got my x plus, I'm going to now subtract 4/5 from both sides. Subtract 4/5. Now, when I do that, something really nice happens. First of all, that disappears and I'm left with an x. But I've also got negative 4/5 plus or minus root 11 on 5. So I've got everything on 5. So I can say x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus root 11 all over 5. And that is the answer. So when I tease that out, I'm going to do once with negative 4 plus root 11 on 5. So I can rewrite this. I'm going to say equals, I can put either, negative 4 plus root 11 on 5, or negative 4 minus root 11 on 5. And of course, you can come up with a decimal answer if you wish to put it in that form. But that would be how you would do it.